launch a preemptive strike. Zhang, director of the Center for Korean Studies at Fudan University, says the peninsula's peace and denuclearization should be achieved through reconciliation. That might provoke North Korea into developing high-tech retaliatory weapons and destroy grounds for reconciliation. That is more likely to develop into an offensive weapon, posing a greater threat to regional stability. Contention 2, hypersonic weapons. Deploying THAAD will encourage China and Russia to deploy hypersonic stealth weapons. According to Sidney Freeberg, running for the Breaking Defense, THAAD might raise the risk of a regional arms race by causing China and Russia to invest in new ways to overcome U.S.-made missile defenses, pointing to Chinese and Russian research into hypersonic weapons. This greatly increases the chance of nuclear war. Nuclear physicist Yusuf Butt writes, HGV mission creep from conventional to nuclear may increase the risk of stumbling into a nuclear war. The risk of accidental nuclear war is already high enough without introducing high-speed and stealthy nuclear HGVs into the mix. And these weapons will get around missile defenses. Even upgraded versions of THAAD will fail to stop them. Yusuf Butt writes, the flight profile of HGVs provides a natural immunity from U.S. ballistic missile defenses. HGVs are maneuverable, which makes any type of defense virtually impossible. New types of missile defenses like the THAAD-ER are being investigated. Even these new missile defenses could be defeated by decoys and maneuverability. Contention 3, status quo solved. The U.S. should not deploy THAAD because South Korea is already producing its own missile defenses. Benjamin Bakers argues this in The Diplomat. South Korea is going indigenous in its attempt to upgrade its missile defense capabilities. Seoul is set to complement the Seaborne SM-2 with an indigenously designed and constructed missile. The KSAAM is a medium-range missile, and it would act as a close protection for warships. Another new addition to KAMD is a land-based Kielme-2 surface-to-air missile system, and is set to complement the currently operating PAC-2 and PAC-3s. There are plans to develop into an indigenous replacement for the Patriots. This represents a performance twice of that of the Patriot system. Plus, the U.S. has already given South Korea multiple other types of missile defenses. Karen Montage of the George Marshall Institute notes, South Korea is currently being defended by systems that the U.S. owns and operates in and around the ROK. The U.S. Army maintains a number of systems that the U.S. owns and operates in and around the ROK. The U.S. Army maintains a number of PAC-3 batteries in South Korea. There are 16 Aegis destroyers assigned to the Pacific Fleet. U.S. also operates a THAAD system in Guam. This proves that THAAD is unnecessary. It is better to leave things the way they are because it won't anger China, David Baker says in The Diplomat. Seoul's recent indigenous arms procurement spree has some important political ramifications. A big concern is China's negative reaction to THAAD's potential deployment. Beijing fears that American system might be aimed at China. An indigenously procured missile shield could assuage Chinese fears while still providing effective protection against North Korea, and it will save a ton of money. According to Sputnik News, a single battery of U.S. THAAD missile system could be deployed in South Korea and would cost up to $1.25 billion.
Do you need prep?
No.
Remember, speak clearly.
3, 2, 1, go. Contention 1 prevents nuclear war. North Korean nuclear war is a real possibility. First, North Korea has recently done nuclear tests and has a growing stockpile of nuclear weapons, according to Bruce Klinger, writing for the Heritage Foundation. U.S. experts estimate that Pyongyang currently has 10 to 16 nuclear weapons. The Korea Institute has predicted a worst-case scenario of Pyongyang having 100 nuclear weapons by 2020, just 4 years from now. We can't ignore these threats. Kim Jong-un might actually believe he can win a nuclear war. John Everett, former British ambassador to North Korea, said it is dangerous to assume that North Korea never really used a nuclear weapon. In the strange closed world of North Korea, it is quite possible that the leadership has convinced itself that foreigners would not dare to attack if it used a nuclear device. Lastly, that is absolutely critical to stopping North Korean weapons of mass destruction. Current events is not enough. Bruce Klinger continues, South Korea insists on relying on lower altitude interceptors, resulting in gaps of cover that leave fewer systems protected. A low altitude, even a successful interception of a nuclear, chemical, or biological warhead could result in the populace still being harmed. THAAD is designed to intercept ballistic missiles at exo-atmospheric altitudes. THAAD would create an essential multi-layered defensive shield for South Korea. The THAAD system has already been developed, tested, scoring a 100% success rate. Contention 2, bargaining chip. That deployment is good because it gives the U.S. more negotiating power over China and North Korea. According to Harry Saw, writing for The Diplomat, that can help reassure the United States should choose to pursue negotiations. That adds value to the negotiation process by the use of a bargaining chip. Some analysts suggest deploying that to shape China's behavior. Once deployed, the removal of THAAD might be useful at the negotiating table with Pyongyang or Beijing. THAAD deployment could be a novel way to speak to Pyongyang or Beijing. This will lead to denuclearizing North Korea and possibly even reunification of one Korea. According to Sung Tae Park, writing in the National Interest, if China takes tough measures to clamp down, there might be a possibility of dismantling Kim's regime nuclear and missile capabilities. At least Pyongyang would be weakened and isolated. Chinese cooperation on North Korea might even pave the way to unification. This has two impacts. First, it will create peace on the Korean Peninsula. Second, North Korean nukes could be sold to ISIS or Syria if we don't remove them. Joe Witt and Jenny Town said this in The Atlantic. The more weapons Pyongyang has, the more dangerous instability becomes. Nuclear bombs could be smuggled abroad and sold to the highest bidder. North Korea's WMD program pose serious security risks that will continue to go not addressed in a direct and compelling way. Contention 3. South Korea nukes. South Korea is now considering developing its own nuclear arsenal to defend against North Korea. Anna Pfeiffer reports this in Washington Post. Some politicians are openly wondering why South Korea shouldn't have its own weapons program, an effective and realistic countermeasure for dealing with North Korea's nuclear capability. It could entail South Korea developing nuclear weapons of its own. Nuclear experts said it could only take 18 months to turn plutonium from South Korea's nuclear power plants into a workable bomb. This could create a global arms race and ultimately undermine American leadership. Frank Kosminski argues this in Real Defense. A nuclear South Korea will dramatically alter the regional balance of power and incensed China, leading to a costly breakdown in Sino-South Korean relations. Japan will not tolerate being left out. These effects might spill over into other regions, including the Middle East. A nuclear-armed South Korea will also seal the growing perception that America's global leadership on important matters is waning. Thankfully, if America extends that to South Korea, then we can prevent South Korea from getting their own nuclear weapons. Bruce Klinger and Sally McNamara of the Heritage Foundation argue the U.S. must significantly strengthen components of American missile defense. Missile defense would reassure our friends and allies. Missile defense contributes to regional peace and stability by reducing other nations' perceived need to acquire nuclear weapons. Contention 4 protects troops. That protects troops. North Korea will launch ballistic missiles at military bases. Bruce Klinger, a senior research fellow at the Northeast Asian Studies Center at the Heritage Foundation, writes, Pyongyang has the ability to attack American bases in the Pacific. North Korea has an extensive ballistic missile force that could strike South Korea, Japan, and American bases in Asia. The Scud missiles can threaten South Korea, the No-Dome, a portion of South Korea, and all of Japan. And the Mud Sand can hit American bases on Okinawa and Guam. Thank you.
You guys ready? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting it now. So go ahead.
Do you have the first question?
Yes.
For your prevents nuclear war, isn't that useless because South Korea already has its own missile defenses?
Yes, but I have evidence that you talked about the KAMD.
Yes.
I have evidence from my first card, the first thing I read, that same thing would be available in 2023. The one that you said that they were developing, that would be available in 2023. 7 years.
Yes, but is that already developed?
Yes, it is. And it has been tested 11 times and has worked 11 times. 100% success rate.
Yes, but that has never been worked in real life. It's never been tested in real life.
Well, has your KAMD been tested in real life and worked?
It's being developed.
Exactly, so which is better, THAAD or something that has never been tested?
I'm talking about South Korea's missile defenses. And
Yes.
plus, there won't even be any use for that if North Korea isn't going to use its own nukes, and they probably won't, even though they've threatened us. They've made a lot of threats in the past, but they have never followed through.
Well, they made a test all of a sudden in August, and they said that they launched a space rocket. But in fact, it was a ballistic missile. Why would they lie about it and test it out of nowhere? Doesn't that mean that something is up? And even
They have also tested, like a few days ago, they tested one. It launched into the sea.
You're just proving my point. They're testing right now. So why do you think they test? There are other ways
To make
use.
other countries afraid. They want attention. They don't want to actually use their nukes. They've
So
already
wha-
made these hollow threats.
Well, what's the point of making countries afraid, right? They want to use it, and there are better ways to use nuclear power than just firing missiles.
The
at people.
U.S. hasn't used its nukes, and it has over 2,000 of them.
Do you want to ask me another question?
Actually, Turkey, would you like to ask?
Okay. You said that it would cause an arms race. Thad?
What would cause it? Yes.
How?
Well, first of all, in my hypersonic weapons contention, I said that THAAD provokes China and Russia because you know of its giant radar system, right? It can actually spy over China, and that will provoke them.
No, it can only aim in a 90-degree arc, and wherever we plant it in South Korea, that will be aimed at North Korea, not at China.
Yes, but it actually, if we wanted to, we could aim it at China, and China doesn't want this.
But,
even if it's not aimed at them,
but
they
then,
still don't want that.
But then why don't we not aim it at China and focus on North Korea?
How do they know we're not going to aim at them? How do we know we're not?
Our actions can determine that. So if we do the right thing and aim it at North Korea, not China,
even
China's innocent, they're not doing anything yet, and they have no reason to test anything unless.
But they have strenuously objected to THAAD deployment of THAAD.
Well, first of all, how does it affect them? Because they have had nuclear weapons since World War II, and they have not used it like we have had it,
Even
and
if
we have never used it.
It's possible it could be.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Yes.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. I'm now going to go over all of my opponents' contentions and prove to you how each one is flawed. They said THAAD will stop nuclear war, but this is wrong. 1, THAAD is useless. South Korea already has missile defense and doesn't need THAAD because North Korea can easily get around it. Theodore Postol, an MIT professor, said in an interview with the Hank Way, self-destruct technology would prevent THAAD radar from identifying an actual warhead. At the moment, THAAD launches an interception missile, North Korea could explode its own missile into multiple fragments. Cutting this missile into many pieces makes it possible to create many false targets. An interception missile would be rendered useless because of the large number of targets. 2, that is not suitable. Raul Hendricks, writing for National Interest, says that is designed for high-altitude intercepts, meaning that is optimized mostly to defend against medium intermediate-range ballistic missiles. The North Korean missiles, which that is best suited to defend against, are unlikely to be used against South Korea. At the same time, that would be of little or no use against the short and tactical-range ballistic missiles, most likely to be employed against the South. This goes against the pro team's argument that North would use nuclear weapons and that THAAD would help. This shows that THAAD would not prevent any nuclear war, if any, and that THAAD is completely useless against North Korea. Additionally, Hendricks continued to prove why North Korea will not use a nuclear weapon. North Korea's long-range missiles are completely unsuited for use against North Korea, just as THAAD is. Incapable of dealing with intercontinental range missiles, the Korean peninsula is only 1,100 kilometers long, whereas ICBMs have a range in excess of 5,500 kilometers. 3, there won't be a nuclear war because North Korea is not suicidal. North Korea knows the U.S. would eliminate them forever if they launched a nuclear weapon. In response to their bargaining chip contention, 1, North Korea will never give up their nukes. No matter how much power the U.S. has, North Korea won't give up their nukes or reunify. Daniel DePietra says in the Huffington Post, North Korea is not at all interested in reunification and denuclearization. In addition to remarks from Kim himself, that North Korea would never willingly disarm itself. It would be insanity from the North's point of view to voluntarily give away the one weapon that guarantees that Washington or South Korea would refrain from regime change. 2, that is actually not a bargaining chip. This minimizes the pro team's contention. Yi Wan-woo, writing for the Korea Times, says the proposed deployment of American missile system in South Korea is not a bargaining chip with China over tougher UN sanctions on North Korea for its nuclear tests and long-range missile launch. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Daniel Russell dismissed allegations that the THAAD missile system is a diplomatic bargaining chip in Washington negotiations with Beijing over the North Korean issues and other security agendas in the region. There's no connection between what is going on in the diplomatic track in the UN Security Council and the question of deployment of THAAD, Russell told reporters in Seoul. That is not a diplomatic bargaining chip. In response to their contention about South Korean nukes, Number 1, won't happen. South Korea will not build nuclear weapons. Troy Stangeron, Senior Director for Congressional Affairs and Trade at the Korea Economic Institute of America, writes this in the Peninsula blog. South Korea developing its own nuclear deterrent would be unprecedented. No state with a mutual defense treaty with the United States has ever required a nuclear weapon. South Korea would also likely face either bilateral or multilateral economic sanctions. There's no reason to believe that the U.S. on nuclear balance is unreliable. 2, South Korea getting nukes is actually a good idea. They need their own weapons and can't keep relying on the U.S. They're already considering building their own nuclear weapons. Doug Bando, writing for National Interest, says, talk of reviving the South's nuclear option is growing. Won Yo-cho, parliamentary floor leader of the ruling party, told the National Assembly, we cannot borrow an umbrella from a neighbor every time it rains. We need a raincoat and wear it ourselves. In response to their contention about protects troops, missile defense cannot protect their troops. The physics are too difficult. Theodore Postol, professor emeritus of science, technology, and national security at MIT, says in this RT, basic physics would tell you that the system not only doesn't work, but it would never be able to work. It has to do with physics that tell the difference between decoys and warheads. This is a fundamental problem with the system. 2. The U.S. already operates a THAAD battery in Guam, so that will protect troops, so they don't need to put a THAAD battery in South Korea. This is why all my opponent's contentions are flawed.
So first, I'm gonna right now I'm gonna give an off-road map of what I'm about to do. I'm gonna so first I'm gonna respond to all of the opposing teams' argument, which were provokes North Korea, hypersonic weapons, and status quo solves. And then if I have extra time, I'm going to continue on with my partner's contention of protects troops. Okay. No, you didn't read the whole thing. Okay. Is everybody ready? Yes. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. They said that will provoke North Korea, but 1, that is not the cause of the arms race. North Korea's nuclear tests are causing the arms race, so we have to stop them. Daniela Varno writes in the common streams, the new test by the DPRK is another indication of inhabitability to prevent states from possessing or even motorizing nuclear weapons. The absence of clear norm that prohibits nuclear weapons has persuaded some states that their possession and the threat of their use are somehow still legitimate. This could lead to a new arms race more dangerous than the one we faced during the Cold War. 2. North Korea is already provoked. They are already testing nukes and making threats. That cannot make it any worse. That will help stop North Korea by giving us a greater defense against their weapons. So it's only going to make the world safer. The argument about hypersonic weapons has many flaws. 1. Hypersonic weapons can be defeated. There are many ways to shoot down a missile before it goes into stealth mode. Stu Magnuson, writing for the National Defense Magazine, said, there are potential defenses. The 2016 National Defense Authorization Act has the Missile Defense Agency fielding boost-based defense system. Such a system would knock a rocket out before it deploys a hypersonic glider. These weapons are already being researched and developed. Even the con team's evidence says that China and Russia are already looking into these weapons and developing them. That will barely affect it. The status quo does not solve. 1. It's not enough. South Korea's missile defense is only low altitude currently. That means North Korea nukes can easily get around it, and it could launch a successful attack. Our evidence from Bruce Klinger proves that. Also, soldiers won't be able to stop a nuclear war. 2. Or other benefits to THAAD. It can be used as a bargaining chip to give the U.S. more power. It could help us contain China and it could prevent South Korea from getting their own nukes by protecting them. Current offensives solve none of these benefits. That is a huge improvement. Now I'm going to continue on with my partner's contention of protects troops. Okay, this is a major reason why South Korea must accept U.S. THAAD ballistic missile defense. It is the best technology available to deter North Korean attacks against our troops. Status quo efforts are insufficient. Klinger continues. THAAD designed to intercept short, medium range and in some intermediate range ballistic missiles trajectories. THAAD would create an essential multi-layered defensive shield for South Korea. A low-altitude missile defense system would have only 1 second to intercept a North Korean missile, while THAAD medium-range system would have 45 seconds to intercept a missile. That's a 44-second difference, which makes the percentages much higher. South Korea's LSAM would have the less altitude and range than THAAD. THAAD has already been developed, scoring a 100% success rate. A single THAAD battery could defend most of South Korea and against a North Korean missile attack. We must do everything to protect our troops. They risk their lives to protect us. So we must invest in technology necessary to protect them. Failure to do so risks are not only the lives of our troops, but civilians they guard. Okay, thank you. And that's why you should vote pro. Yes.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yes. 3, 2, 1, go. May I ask the first question?
No, I think we get the first question since we went first.
Okay.
So you said that has been tested with a 100% success rate, but this hasn't been tested in real life. How do you know that will actually work in real life?
First of all, because it's been tested 11 times, and 11 times.
None of those were in real life, though.
Well, has your status quo been tested in real life?
Yes, South Korea's existing missile defense has worked in real life before, while THAAD hasn't been tested against a real nuke.
Can you give me a specific date stating when status quo has been successful?
Yeah, well, North Korea always makes hollow threats. They've never actually launched a nuclear missile, so how can I give you that evidence?
No, I'm not answering the question.
No, but you're not answering my question. Can you give me a
No,
specific
this was my
date?
question.
I know, but
Okay. THAAD missile defense would work because it's been tested 11 times. Status quo can only be low altitude, but that missile defense still has 45 seconds, while status quo only has 1 second. Now, isn't that a big difference? Isn't that a much higher percentage than just 1 second?
In my response speech
intercepting
to your
a
prevents
ballistic
nuclear
missile?
war contention, I stated that nuclear weapons would not be used against South Korea, and only short-range and tactical-range ballistic missiles were likely to be used. So that minimizes your whole contention.
Wait, can you?
Status quo actually does solve.
no.
Well,
Can we move on?
status
Do you have a
quo.
question?
Okay, sure. Okay, why wouldn't we want to give South Korea a THAAD missile defense if we want to protect them?
Yeah, it's gonna cause an arms race.
So
soon
that
as we
totally
see-
goes against our evidence of provokes North Korea, and again it totally goes against that, which is basically what you're saying. North Korea's nuclear tests are causing an arms race, and as you guys said in your response, you said that they launched a missile
Yes, but not hypersonic
into
weapons.
space known as a satellite, but actually it was a missile, and it landed in the water. So that's what's causing
And
the arms race.
if you're listening to our hypersonic weapons contention, we stated that THAAD would cause a hypersonic weapons arms race between China, Russia, China and Russia, and that's bad. So that goes against your evidence as well. Your evidence doesn't cover hypersonic weapons.
Do you have any evidence stating how THAAD is causing an arms race? Because as we said in our evidence clearly, it states North Korea's nuclear tests are causing the arms race, so we have to stop them. And if we don't stop North Korea, then the arms race will keep.
In our evidence, we clearly stated that hypersonic weapons.
And may I please speak? May I please finish? So can I finish my sentence?
Do you want to go into prep for it? No.
Is everybody ready?
No.
What's your roadmap? Like what order? Is it just the order that it was read?
Yes.
Don't skip
Yeah, I know.
Just go in order.
Okay, I will now go over all of the pro team's responses to our contentions and show how all of them are flawed. And for your responses to our provokes North Korea contention, you said that that is not the cause of your arms race and that North Korea is already provoked. However, this is very flawed. First of all, that is actually the major cause of the nuclear arms race. It is provoking 3 countries, 2 of which are world powers, and 1 of which wants to kill us all. Provoking in China and Russia just encourages them to develop hypersonic weapons, as stated in our hypersonic weapon contention. This goes directly against what they have stated. North Korea has also threatened nuclear war, but it's unlikely that they will follow through. They have made many hollow threats, so why do we think that they would do anything else right now? This proves THAAD to be useless. There's no nuclear war to defend South Korea against. Even while it is true that North Korea is already provoked, THAAD will further provoke them in making them more mad. This cuts off paths to negotiations and diplomatic relationships. For their responses to our hypersonic weapons contention, they stated that hypersonic weapons can be actually defeated and that THAAD is not causing the development of these weapons. This is also very flawed. Hypersonic weapons are still in development and they can be easily changed. We don't know how these weapons will work when they are actually being deployed. We are only guessing how these things are working. Secondly, hypersonic weapons are not THAAD is actually encouraging the development of hypersonic weapons. it provokes China and Russia because its radar can spy on them. Yes, I do understand there's a 90-degree arc that can be aimed away, but they still don't like the fact that it's a possibility that the U.S. can spy on them. This is just one out of 1,000 reasons why we should not deploy THAAD. For your responses to our status quo solves contention, actually, you said that it's not enough, and that THAAD can be a bargaining chip for this. However,
Do you guys need prep or are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay. Wait, you're not using prep?
No, I'm good. Starting now. Our first contention is prevents nuclear war. Is basically saying that THAAD can prevent a nuclear war that could happen because of North Korea firing a nuclear missile. And they said back that South Korea already has their own missiles and that they can explode it before the THAAD missile gets there, so it'll throw it off. But that same effect can also happen with their indigenous missile, and their indigenous missile is worse because it only has 1 second intercept while THAAD has way more. And they also said that they'll never use that North Korea will never fire a nuclear missile. Well, if that is true, then their idea of the South Korean indigenous missile goes out because there was no need to. But also, if they do use it, and it's better to be safe than sorry when we have it on the ground. So then, in case they do, we know what to do and to save millions of lives. Our second contention is bargaining chip, and it's basically saying that we can use that to shade China's behavior. They said back that North Korea won't surrender nukes and it's not a bargaining chip, but at least we can put harder sanctions on the DPRK because they're the main reason why in the UN Security Council why we can't push harder sanctions because everyone has to say yes. But if we get China on our side, we can push harder sanctions. At least they might get rid of 1 or 2 of their nuclear weapons. And when it comes to nuclear weapons, 1 is a lot. And we can also make China help. Our third contention was South Korean nukes. Is basically saying that South Korea is thinking about getting nukes, and that's bad, and that is better and it saves lives. They said back then they will not build nukes, but then later they said that that's actually a good idea. They explained something in parliament, in the South Korean parliament, where they actually wanted to. So that kind of goes against their response that they will not build nukes. And our last contention was protects troops, and it's basically saying that it can save millions of troops' lives and their civilians that they protect. They said that the system fails, but that because it saves innocent lives, so it does not fail. Okay.
Oh wait, no. Wait, this is.
Yeah, it's going faster.
Everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. May we ask the first question?
no, because we went first.
So, like, you said that in your summary speech, you said something about ourselves contradicting our own response point. What did you mean by that? I don't think there's anything bad about
No,
that.
I mean, you said that when you said that South Korea getting nukes is a good idea, you explained a quote from someone in the South Korean government saying, "Oh, we want to get a nuke," and then but your first response was that they will not build nukes, so that is contradicting your response.
But it's not supporting your point either.
Yes, but those responses are out because they're contradictory.
They don't contradict each other.
Yes, they do.
No,
Well,
one is
saying
saying that South Korea isn't going to build nukes. One's saying South Korea building nukes is a good idea. They don't contradict each
Yes,
other.
but one little piece of evidence from
just
that idea
ideas.
that's a good idea.
No, this would contradict South Korea building nukes is a good idea. South Korea building nukes is a bad idea.
But
We didn't say that.
Yes, you
Wait,
did.
wait,
No, we didn't.
Sweetheart.
We said that South Korea isn't going to build a nuke, and South Korea.
Okay, so
can we move on?
I have one thing. Okay, but so your question is basically saying that that in our summary that you guys that we said that your responses are contradicting each other, right?
Yes, but we said that they don't contradict each other.
Do you have any evidence backing that up?
How do they
what
not
up?
Backing what
contradict?
up?
How did they not contradict?
There's
Exactly.
it's simple logic. They don't contradict. They're two separate. There's link and impact. They're two different.
There are 2 different paths that South Korea could take. They could either go non-nuclear or they could go nuclear.
No, one
Why
is
would they
saying,
want to go
one's
nuclear?
talking about
Even in-
ideas. One's
May I
saying
please speak? Okay.
You
Even in our evidence, it states that no.
Can we move on? This is not that
Okay.
important.
Okay. So may we ask the next question?
Yes.
So in your wait, teacher, do you want to ask?
Yeah. You said that HEVs can avoid nuclear weapon, or can avoid THAAD, but North Korea does not have that.
We're not talking about North Korea when we're talking about hypersonic weapons. We're talking about China and Russia.
So are you telling me that China and Russia will fire at South Korea? Is that what you're telling me?
Wait, what's your question again?
I am saying you said that HEVs were maneuverable, right? So are you telling me that Russia and
No, we're saying
we're saying that is gonna cause an arms race, and those hypersonic weapons can bypass our THAAD system, and those could be a threat to our national security.
But that's going totally against our evidence, which clearly states, and I've said this many times before.
That doesn't. Your evidence. I've heard your evidence before. Your evidence does not cover hypersonic weapons. It only covers nukes.
Yes, it
And
does.
we have proven that nukes aren't going to be used against South Korea.
What? Well, then why? So then, what's the whole point of status quo? What's the whole point of that?
We
Why
don't
would
need
we
that.
need that?
Exactly. You're supporting our point now.
No,
We don't
you're
need that.
supporting our point too, because you're just basically saying that South Korea does not need any defense.
No, we did not say that. We said that South Korea does not need that. 3, 2, 1, go. I believe that the con team has won this debate because of our status quo solves contention. First, I'm going to go over my contentions, then I'm going to go over my opponent's contentions and prove to you why you should vote for the con team. I believe that the con team has won this debate because of our status quo solves contention. It's saying that South Korea is already producing its own missile defense and it doesn't need that. Also, the U.S. has already provided South Korea with numerous other types of missile defense. Now, the pro team has said that there's not only low altitude, so we need that. But in my response speech against your prevents nuclear war contention, I stated evidence that proves that these types of missiles most likely be used in an event of war are not nukes that is meant for, but actually short-range missiles that cannot shoot down. These missiles are the type that are most likely to be used in war, rendering that of little or no use. Additionally, the pro team has said that the indigenous defenses are worse because they're not high altitude. But like I just said, those nukes aren't most likely to be used in war. So indigenous is actually better suited because that can't shoot down the low altitude missiles. And they said it's better to have that, but it's definitely not because nukes aren't going to be used, like I've said over and over again. So status quo does solve. Additionally, in my evidence, I said that South Korea is going to develop its own missile defense capable of defending against North Korea, and that the U.S. already operates a THAAD battery in Guam, close to the Korean Peninsula, in the rare event if nukes even were to be used. All of this further proves our points that THAAD is useless, but not only is THAAD useless, but it's also bad for South Korea. South Korea is harmed if THAAD is put there, and it would be better off if it weren't. This is because of our provokes North Korea contention and hypersonic weapons contention, which say that it's going to start an arms race. Now onto my opponent's contentions. They said that onto my opponent's summary speech, they said that they did not respond to numerous of our contentions, saying that that is not a bargaining chip. They've never responded to that before. And this directly contradicts their bargaining chip contention. And their prevents nuclear war contention totally goes away because of our status quo solves contention, because nukes aren't going to be used. Their South Korean nukes contention, all they said against that is that our responses contradict each other, but they don't, like I've proved before. And
You want to use the rest of prep?
So first, I'm going to give an off-road map. So first, I'm going to address my voting issue, and then I'm going to address their voting issues and respond to them, and then because they said in their final focus speech that we did not respond to their bargaining chip, I will respond to their one bargaining chip response.
But that's new information.
What?
That's new information.
Just keep going.
Okay, and then I'm gonna respond to all of their contentions. Okay, so 2 minutes on the clock. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go. At the end of the day, I believe that the pro team should win because of this voting issue. Prevents nuclear war. What prevents nuclear war is basically saying is that if we accept the THAAD missile defense, it'll prevent nuclear war, which is quite obvious because of the name. But they said in their prevents nuclear war response, they said that THAAD is useless and South Korea already has their own missile defense and doesn't need that. But South Korea's missile defense simply isn't enough. And it can only right now it can only go short distance. What if it's what if it's hundreds of miles away? How could status quo even shoot from there? And they only have 1 second to intercept that missile. Well, if that only has 45 seconds, that's a much higher percentage than just 1. Okay, now moving on to their final their voting issue, which was status quo solves. In response to status quo solves, status quo does not solve. As I just stated, status quo is not enough. It's just simply not enough. It can only shoot at low altitude ranges and only has 1 second. That's a big risk they're taking there. But okay, with that you have 45 seconds, and it can shoot at long range, which also means that they can shoot at short range. Now responding to the bargaining chip, they stated that that THAAD would not be used as a bargaining chip, but THAAD will be used as a bargaining chip. It will show other countries such as China or Russia so we can contain them. As one of our contentions were, but we didn't read, contain China. And that is so. At the end of the day, that's why I believe that the pro team has won this debate. Thank you.